Thank you for joining us today. We want to talk about, in this webinar, give you a little bit of an introduction to Symphony Plus, and focus mainly on the application software in this webinar. We'll have additional webinars going forward every month, and we'll take deeper dives into the different areas of Symphony Plus. So while this one covers software, the next one will be covering the control and IO hardware. But any questions you have along the way, please feel free to provide them, and we will answer. So I want to give you a little bit of a background of Symphony Plus and the market itself, and then I'll turn it over to Vernal, who will take a deeper dive into operations and engineering. So regardless of what industry you're coming from, the challenges that you're faced with are pretty similar across the board. Trying to do more with what you have, whether that's improving efficiencies with your energy and water usage as demand goes up. From the consumer side, the industrial side has to do more and be better. Or in workforce, where you have a disparate set of skills now in your workforce. As the baby boomers are retiring and the millennials are moving in, you have a set of workers now with disparate knowledge and skills and trying to control and automate to manage the same processes. So automation has to play a significant role in this. If you look to the digital transformation that's going on now, where in 1 hour, we're collecting more data than you were collecting at your plant in 1 month 10 years ago. How do you use that data to help everybody within the facility or within the enterprise to do their jobs better and perform better? Automation has to play a role in that as well. And then obviously, as you're integrating more information in from different devices into services and to the people, connecting people, you need to make sure that you have cyber protection. Make sure that your architectures are secure, your information is secure, and protect from threat. The problem with all this is the state of your systems today. ARC, in their annual report, have stated this for multiple years now, that 2/3 of the automation out there is coming to the end of its life. That a lot of it, I think, a third of that or a quarter of that is actually still first-generation DCS. So the question is, how do you do so much more and add all these different features of functions and technologies to achieve what you want to achieve, yet do it from the base that you have? None of us have the luxury of, rip and replacing our investments that we've made over time. So we have to build from that installed base that you have already. And this is what Symphony Plus provides. It really is the best fit for whether it's the power, water, or the process industry, in that it's a flexible system, being able to adapt to any application, to any industry, from very small applications to very large, to central block traditional architectures and plants of operation, to geographically distributed architecture. In some cases, we're talking SCADA requirement. And it's measurable. It takes it harnesses all that data that you have in the plant or across the plants, takes that data, harnesses to create solutions for you through automation, through integration, through optimization to improve your productivity, your efficiencies, operation, security, safety, and ownership. Basically taking the data you have, transforming it into information so that you know more about your plant and your performance, that you can start doing more with your plant, and then do it through optimization, doing it better. And I just at this point, I wanted to maybe point out here, you notice ABB Abilities to tagged onto the front of the Symphony Plus system name. That's because ABB Ability is basically our brand for our digital solutions. And through its connection with Symphony Plus, basically, hand in glove with Symphony Plus, it basically is you're setting your foundation in your plant for your digital plant of the future. I'm sure a lot of you are focused on your plant of the future, your plant for the next generation, and looking for that digital foundation. And that's what Symphony Plus is. It's digital ready in order to incorporate all of these solutions being provided for better performance. And then I think the most important piece here that I want to talk about then was sustainability. Once you have Symphony Plus, or whatever system you have today of the different Symphony generations, you are built with a compatible path for the future in a very seamless way. So we secure your previous, your current, your future investments in automation assets over the entire life of your plant. So basically have the system match the life of the plant. The system life match to the plant life. And we've been doing this for 35 years since the introduction of our first generation system, the Network 90 system, and basically provides for you to protect the investments that you make in your system and provide you with the most seamless and most cost-effective path forward to new technology and features to meet your changing business process needs. So just a few factoids here. Symphony Plus, as we introduced the system back in, I think it was 2011, so 7 years ago. And over that time, it is a mainstream offering of our DCS, of ABB's DCS portfolio, and is a major contributor to the #1 standing that we have, #1 position we have in the DCS market, which we've had for now multiple years. We have over 7,000 installations currently running around the world in a variety of industries, in process and oil and gas and chemical and pulp and paper and mining, metals and cement, in a variety of industries. And as I mentioned, it is connected back in a contiguous way back to the first generation Network 90 system through our evolution without obsolescence policy. Break down the systems we have, or installations, we have about 2,000, over 2,000 in process, 5,000 in power and water, and we're the largest non-OEM supplied turbine control supplier out there with over 3,400 installations of turbine for steam, gas, extraction turbines, and so forth. Here's a nice map of the multiple generations of Symphony. So starting back with the introduction of Network 90 and controllers of MFPs, the original EWS workstation, the CAD workstation, and OIUs and MCS, and then continuously connected to each system generation through Infa 90, through Symphony Harmony, and then to today's Symphony Plus. And through that backward compatibility or upward compatibility, these products play together, and I'm sure a lot of your installations probably have a combination of MFPs from Infa 90, I mean, to the BRCs of Symphony, to today's Harmony Rack or HR series. The latest BRC rack control is 300, 400, 410. And now we've introduced a family of DIN controllers, HPC, SPC 700, which use the same configuration, the same composer or function block tools, and they're all upward compatible with just a re-download into the newest, latest controllers. And they all talk over the same communication networks. And then on the upper levels, engineering, S Plus engineering is today's offering for engineering tools, and HMI options of S Plus operations and 800K operations. So that basically shows where we're at. As I mentioned, we will talk about the control and I/O and communications portfolio in our next installment of webinars in May. And today we want to focus on engineering and on operations. And with that, so what you see in the bubbles are what we're going to speak about here. And then with that, we'll also be speaking about alarm management, information management, asset management, the applications that come with these software products. So with that, I'd like to turn it over to Renaud, and we can move into the operation.
Thank you, Mark. So what I want to start off is with a couple of graphics. The first one I have here is from the ABB Collaborative Operations Center. So this is a global operations center where we tie into remotely monitor various customers of ours and see what's happening with them and provide recommendations to optimize the plant performance. So this is the actual center, and it's a picture of that. I think I like to show this because it gives a good feel for the digital future that we are moving towards. I do want to show a couple of other photos. One is of one of our users, and this is the control room at the user facility. So this is a much bigger installation. So of course, S Plus operations can be installed on a virtual machine on your laptop, or can be scaled up to 148 independent servers talking simultaneously. So just an installation to get a feel for how big can we scale S Plus operations. Another photo with a close-up of the same user. So typically what we see on the left are traditional control rooms. So what you see here is a poor integration of all the other systems that are available, including CCTV or telecom. So unless you're a veteran, like someone who's been in the control room for 20, 30 years, they understand exactly what's happening with the system. But if you're bringing in a newer operator, it's very difficult for them to get used to this system. So that what you're trading off is operator effectiveness. And there's data to back this up. You see on the right, I'm showing some of the information that we have. So around 20 billion is lost due to unscheduled shutdowns. That's a big number. And if you break that down further, around 6 billion is lost because of human error. So that human error is something that ABB as a company wants to focus in on. We want to see how can we reduce that human error by improving the operator effectiveness. And ABB's approach has been to go with the four-pillar approach. So if you see here on the very bottom, I have 4 pillars. One is integrated operations. So that is, taking your telecom, taking your CCTV or all other different vendor systems into the S Plus operations platform. The second pillar is design for high performance. Of course, you'd have heard about high performance graphics and high performance philosophy on the graphic side. But in addition to that, we want to ensure that the product itself has high performance capabilities. So to make sure that someone can reach an action within 1 or 2 strokes is very important when we design our product. The third pillar is attention to human factor. When we know that when we work with our users, you have different shifts, right? You have people who work on the night shift, you have morning shift. We want to make sure that each of the operator, irrespective of the shift, is given the same kind of attention. So when we go in and design the control system, we want to make sure that your operator does not have, when working on the control system, does not have an impact on the lifespan that they're dedicated to the company. The fourth pillar is operator competence. With newer operators coming in, it's not like the traditional standpoint where people grew into those roles where you have 20, 30 years of experience. Now it's substituted with people who are coming out of universities with degrees and taking up these roles. So now you do not have the ground level experience when you come into these operator rooms. So how do you fill that gap? So we address it either through digital twins or simulation platforms that Symphony Plus provides to ensure that the operators are trained before they're put into the real life scenario. So S Plus operations takes each of those pillars and brings it into action. One of the pillars that we spoke about is integrated operations, right? So in order to tackle these operator challenges, we bring in every different platform that we work with on the user side. So be it CCTV integration, be it your alarm management with different vendors that you have, we bring all that into one uniform platform. And not only that, we go into the auxiliary system. So if we have to connect through Modbus, you want electrical integration through 61850, you want to integrate DNP 3.0 or 104 or various other protocols, we provide that connectivity with S Plus operation. And what this does is it removes the islands of control. And when you remove the islands of control, you have a centralized location now that the operator can make decisions. Now you have consolidated alarm and event lists. So imagine that instead of having disparate systems where you have to see what was the event that triggered in my system A and did that cause an issue with my system 2. Instead of all that, when you have it consolidated in a central location, now it's easier to troubleshoot any issue that might have tripped the plant or issues that you see out there. So when we're going to integrate various systems, one of the biggest challenges that we face with Symphony Plus operations is what about the architecture? What about the flexibility that Symphony Plus can provide in terms of architecture? We mentioned about virtual machines. I can have one Symphony Plus server sitting on my laptop and I can connect serverless to my hardware. That's number one if you see on the top left here. On the very bottom right, I'm showing hierarchical architecture. So what do I mean by that is now I can have one set of servers which are at the very bottom. So each of these has its own independent tag database. And I can have a master server sitting on top which has a master server, master tag database. So now I have flexibility with the S Plus architecture based on what is needed at the user site. The other thing that we have done, especially when we are migrating over from legacy consoles, be it PC View or be it Conductor NT, you can mimic the same architecture. So if your operators or maintenance staff are used to having a certain architecture with a tag database split, you can do the same thing with Symphony Plus operations. So you're not introducing something new in terms of the architecture. And that flexibility is extremely powerful for us when we go in for integrating the plant automation system.
The same is true, Renaud, when we have, you have multiple sets of servers or nodes that have the same database, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yes, so even if you have the same database that's shared between multiple servers, you can have N plus 1 redundancy as well. So now if you're migrating, if you're evolving from legacy consoles to the latest generation of Symphony Plus operations, so ABB provides two different approaches to this. One is preserving existing graphics. So this is useful when we go to our users and we say, hey, Mr. User, you know, your operators are used to seeing graphics in a certain way. We'll keep the graphics as is. We have translation tools and we have conversion tools such a way that the data is not lost. So the same graphics are visible, but now in the latest Symphony Plus operations platform. So it gives the users time to get used to the product itself, the additional enhanced features that are available in S Plus operations. And I'll hit on a couple of them later. So again, this is so that the operator is used to the graphics, but more gets time to understand what's around it, what's the Symphony Plus platform provide that can make them more effective. The other thing that we also provide is enhancing the graphics. So as opposed to just preserving the graphics, we can go in and say, let's convert it to the high performance philosophy that's out there. So we can take the graphics, update it, as opposed to only converting it. What we have done with a couple of our users is we go in there, and this is an example of PC View that I'm mentioning. We go in there, we translate the graphics into as is, and then we go and slowly, as time progresses, we go with different parts or aspects of the plant and enhance those graphics from PC View to the latest high performance or even color-coded schemes, so depending on what's relevant. But again, what this provides is flexibility, right? If you go in there, we're not telling that you need to abandon the old system and move immediately into the new S Plus operations with new graphics and new functionality. We work with the users to see what's the best fit for the operators that you have on site. If you have new operators who are coming in and that's a brand new plant, maybe the high performance is the better route to go. Or maybe you already have veteran operators out there with 20, 30 years of experience, then we might sit with you and we'll say, you know what, let's translate the graphics first, let's give it some runtime so your operators get used to the other features and functionality, and then the phase 2 might be where we go and enhance the graphics. So within the product itself, when I mentioned high performance earlier, it's not just the graphic high performance. We also have, within the product, we have ensured that we have features and functions that enable high performance within the product. One of the things that I'm talking about here are personalized workplaces. So if you see on the top right here, I have management logging in. Management is interested in seeing the KPIs at the plant or at the site. So when the management logs in, those are the graphics that show up with the KPI. Say the maintenance person logs in. Maintenance person is more interested in the reports that are on the site. What are the new work orders that I need to work on? So log in to show that page with the work orders. When the engineer logs in, engineer is more interested in the P&ID drawings or maybe the composer or S Plus engineering logic from the operator standpoint. So you can log in and that's the first graphic that shows up. Operator logs in, it's the graphics. Now even within the operator logging in, if your operator A logs in, maybe the operator A is interested in seeing these two graphics which I'm showing on the left, and maybe the alarm list, and also maybe a trend display. So I can see when operator A logs in, I get to see a certain set of graphics. When operator B logs in, I get to see another set of graphics that are relevant to that operator. Also, in addition to that, the product is flexible in terms of what you have around it. Here, if you see, I have the alarm bar on top, and I'll hit on it a slide later. And I have the alarm bar at the bottom as well. You see on the right, I have the alarm bar on the left. I have the favorites and history. I can hide them. I can show them. Depending, again, what is the most important for that site or for that user, we modified the software offering. If you go into the graphic itself, we mentioned about high performance and one click to action. So we take care of that with contextual navigation. So we integrate your video footage. So for example, what we have done is, say you have 2 or 3 pumps in a certain area and you have one CCTV monitoring all the 3 pumps. You can integrate with S Plus operation. So if I click on the pump 1, right click and say, video, the CCTV will automatically reconfigure and zoom in on the pump 1. Say you go to your second graphic where the pump 2 is, it's the same CCTV, but I can say right click and show me the pump. Now it'll zoom out of the pump 1, the CCTV, and then zoom in to pump 2. So you can integrate video, you can integrate electrical drawings, P&ID drawings, or even control for that matter. So if you have an operator who wants to understand what's causing this interlock, the operator can right click on the tag and it'll bring up the S Plus engineering CLD or control logic drawing, right? So the operator can see what are the live values that are going through the logic. Of course, the operator cannot modify it, but he or she can know what's happening and troubleshoot any interlocks. We can link to maintenance system. So if you have a maintenance system, you have a computerized maintenance system, that can be linked again from S Plus operation. Say you have an alarm management philosophy that you have for different equipments. Those documents can be linked to the equipment within S Plus operations. So as you see here, we are integrating various different software or tools within S Plus operations. So the beauty of this is now you don't need your operators to know who do I need to ask to find out my alarm decision, which folder is my alarm decision document stored in, where is my CCTV, is it on a different screen, do I need to go see under my table or over on the overhead. All that is eliminated because now it's all within the S Plus operations window. I did want to talk about some of the features that we have in terms of ergonomic design of the S Plus operations. So if you see right on top, I have the alarm group bar. So on top, these buttons are clickable, where it says system, PRI 1, 2, and 3, priority 1, 2, 3. These can be clickable to either open a graphic or to open the alarm list or to open a trend display. So for example, here I've configured on my screenshot to show priority 1, 2, 3, and system. So if I click on system, I can see a graphic associated with the entire system. The number below that shows me what's the number of alarms that are in that alarm list or graphic or trend that I'm looking at, right? Here it's showing 1 and it's green. That means I have 1 alarm in the system, and the highest priority alarm in that alarm list is priority 3 alarm, because right now I'm saying 3 is green, priority 2 is orange, and priority 1 is red. So if you see here, the second one, I have 5 and it's still green. That means I have the lowest priority alarm in that alarm group. I have orange showing that, okay, I have a priority 2 alarm, which is the highest one in that group. And on the left one, I have red. That means I have priority 1 alarm in that alarm group. So immediately when an operator looks at this, my eyes are going to go to the red and say, I need to sort out the red because that's my priority 1 alarms. And then I can move to the orange and then to the green. Of course, it depends on the alarm management strategy that you have at your site. We also have things like side menu or the flyout navigation. So the flyout navigation goes over the graphics or can push the graphics aside. So what it does is it can give you one-click navigation to different graphics that you have, or even to alarm bars that you need to get to. So the flyout navigation, if you see on this particular graphic, I do not have any navigation buttons or either on top or the bottom of the graphic screen, because we wanted, for this particular user, we wanted to use the entire space of the graphic. So we took all the navigation out of the graphic screen. Now that's more on a flyout. So I do the flyout and I can group. So if I have different areas within the plant, I can group the areas, and inside the areas I can have what do you call P&IDs or any other graphics associated with it. So it's more of a navigation bar on the side. So these are some of the aspects within S Plus operations on the very high level. But if you're going into the graphic design itself, so with ABB, we provide the high performance graphics as an option. So we can have, right here is, we'll delve deeper into this in a different webinar, but this is more of an introduction. So here I'm showing you 4 levels of high performance graphics. Level 1 is plant surveillance. If you see the graphics here, right, all the colors are muted. So high performance, there's this misconception that it's only grayscale. It's not necessary that it's grayscale. Even if you're using colors, we've muted. So if you see here, there's pink and there's blue, but it does not draw the operator's attention. You see here, the yellow ones are the ones that draw the operator's attention because it's more highlighted. So that's plant surveillance. So I'm looking at a very high level. I look at the plant. I'm like, okay, most of it is operating fine. I can see some yellow. Let me dig in deeper. The second level is area surveillance. So now it's within the plant, you're looking at a particular area. And then if you go to the third level, it's your process PNID graphic. And then one level below that is your faceplate. So now is the actual faceplate. And we have something called enhanced faceplate. So within the faceplate, you can embed your help screens. You can embed your interlocks or any other information within the faceplate. So if you see, it's a more hierarchical approach from a high performance standpoint, right? You want to look at what's happening at a very high level, then dig in deeper to find out what's happening. And all these, if you see on the second one here, there's a red color. So now I know that there's a high priority issue that's happening. I need to dig into this. Everything else is yellow. That means it's going outside of normal operating conditions. So I need to go in and dig in a little deeper. The other cool feature that we have is our powerful trending software. So within S+ operation, we have a trend database. So here, if you see, if I have a trend database, trend open, and I have a graphic open as well, I can drag an operator can drag any of the tags or items and drop it on my trend, and it'll trend the entire history of that particular tag, right? And a trend is connected to the historian, so it'll pull in information for as long as it's stored in the historian. You don't have to go outside of the trending chart. In addition to that, I can also add scooters. So if you see here, I have two scooters are just lines, right? If there is an issue or abnormal condition, I drop two scooters, I get the values of all the tags in that trend group. I also get the values of all the trends, all the values for the second time period. And at the very bottom, I get to see what is the difference between each of those values, right? So it's useful if you're trying to understand, okay, what's the implication in terms of changing one particular value on a plan, and what does it have an impact on the other parameter or variable. In addition, one of the cool features that we have here is called the spawn event view. So say we have an abnormal situation. I can just highlight that area on my trend, and it'll open an event explorer telling me what happened in that time window. Who logged in, who logged out, what set point changes were made out, what tags came into alarm, which ones were bad quality. So the entire history of your plan can be known in that time window through your trend display. And I think that's a pretty cool feature, and many of our users use it extensively. So moving from the product, the second aspect that I want to hit on is alarm management. If you see here, this is data from industry-wide data. On the left, I have the industry standard should be. On the right, I have different industry verticals, oil and gas, petrochem, power, and also other industries. And we're talking about, okay, what is the as-is that we see in the field? So if you see the average alarms per day, 144 is the standard should be. But if you look at the industry, they're far, far from it. Same with the priority distribution. There should be, you need to have high priority of 5%. But if you look at the various industries, completely flipped. You have much more of high priority alarms. And what this does is not having a good sound alarm management strategy can have various implications. One of the big implications we had here in Cleveland a couple of weeks ago at university hospitals here in Cleveland had lost all their, in the sperm bank that they lost the entire shipment that they had. And that was because, someone had turned off the alarm in the liquid nitrogen tank. So the valve was stuck at open, and the people who were filling in the liquid nitrogen, because they thought it was not functioning properly, they were filling in the liquid nitrogen manually, and it was overloaded. It overloaded the system, and the university hospitals lost the entire sperm bank facility that they had, which is again a real life scenario that happened very recently. So it's very important to have a good alarm management strategy in place. So what we do with S+ operations is we take the should be and try to convert it to as is. So we have tools and software. Within the software, we have reports that come out of the box to help you get closer to the should be situation. A couple of reports that I can talk about here is, one is priority distribution. Now I can see, the time window that I'm interested in looking at I can see what's my priority distribution. Do I have more of priority 1? Do I have more of 2 or 3, or how many of priority groups that you have? We have alarm and event frequency, right? So here I can see who are my bad actors, which of my tags come into my system as alarms more often than the other ones. What is my average that I have? How far are my what is my standard deviation on my other tags? So you can work into say, what, I need to see what's going on with that particular tag. Is there something wrong with the equipment, or is there something we need to change from our alarm management strategy for that equipment? The third one I have here is alarm performance level. So it looks at your entire system for the time window that you've defined and puts an X. So if the X where we want it typically is in the blue area. So blue is where it's stable and robust. Green is more where it's predictive. So now you're not inundating the operator. You have less than 10 alarms coming in, every hour or something like that. If you have up here, you have 1,000 alarms coming in every 10 minutes, and you're inundating the operator, therefore rendering the operator not to be as effective as he or she can be. Of course, there are many more reports. I'm not going across them. It could be something we can delve into deeper in terms of alarm management, if it's of interest to the audience here. The other one, other capability that we have within S+ operations is thin web client. So this, what it does is it converts your entire system and puts it on your network. So of course, security has a big play in this, depending on who has access can see this. But you can have your trend display, your graphics, your alarms. You can have you can also have your reports all on Internet Explorer. So whoever has access, say for example, management wants to see what's happening at plant A. They can log in and they can have the KPIs displayed on Internet Explorer. So immediately they know what's happening as is in that current moment at the plant. We can have reports scheduled. So you can have, shift end reports, month end reports, year end reports, or whatever, whatever makes sense in terms of periodic reports for the user. We have it automatically scheduled. So you don't have anyone actually going in and clicking a button. It's automatically populated, and anyone with the right access can see the reports. All the reports are Excel-based. We do have standard reports that come out of the box, but most of the time we sit with the user and say, how can we modify this to be more relevant to show the KPIs that matter to you within the system. The second thing that, the other thing that I want to talk about is the shift book. So probably most of you either have paper logs or have electronic logs, but what we do is we take the shift book and integrate it into S+ operations. So anytime a shift changes within the plant, it's logged automatically in the electronic shift book. So and also any action items that are there from the earlier shift are now transferred to the next shift owner who's coming in and logging in. And this is helpful because now you're integrating the software in S+ operations, right? So even if you have paper logs right now, it's completely disconnected. You have to move it into the digital realm. But many of you probably already have it in the digital realm, but are they connected to your DCS, right? So I'm not sure if how many of you have that, but that's something to look at. The more you can automate some of these shift logs and shift books, it reduces the error that can be introduced due to mostly human error. So the next step that we can take from here is we can take the shift book information. So if it's a malfunction report that the operator put in, it can tie into SAP, API Pro, or any of your computerized maintenance management system and create work orders. So now, think about this. Now you're on a DCS, the operator sees an issue, figures out there's an equipment failure, puts it in the shift book as a malfunction report, and that is then converted into a work order in your SAP and goes to the right maintenance stuff. So you're digitizing your entire maintenance system as opposed to, again, doing it manually or having disconnected systems and trying to make sure that manual entry is fed into those systems. The other aspect that we play in is in the geographical information systems. So we have many of our users who have distributed operations. So when you have distributed operations, it's very useful to layer our maps on top of it. So of course, ABB has its own GIS, but in addition, we can link in any of the internet-based maps. If Google Maps or if anyone uses Bing Maps, you can integrate Bing Maps also into S+ operations. And in addition to maps, you can also have weather data into that, or wind data. Any of the other information can be put into the S+ operations. If you see the screenshot here, It's all within S Plus operations. I'm not going outside of the window, but it's just integrating everything into my S Plus operations. Now you can zoom in if you're looking at a particular process station, or you can zoom out and see what's happening with my entire fleet. The biggest thing when you talk about, integrating all your systems or having big data or, putting your weather data into S Plus operations is security, right? So of course, with S Plus operations, within the product itself, we have different security measures. Of course, there's user authentication, but in addition, we have role-based access control. So what do I mean by that is, if an operator A logs in, and maybe operator A has only access to, the powerhouse, maybe operator 2 has only access to your balance of plant or rest of plant. So when the operator A logs in, he or she only can see the graphics and make changes or operate the turbine or the powerhouse part of it. The operator 2 only has access and can see and make changes to the balance of plant. In addition, you can go all the way to tag security. I can go all the way to say, this tag 1 can only be touched by someone who has security level 1. And we have security levels up to 32 various, various groups that we can create. So within the product itself, there's very, very flexible in terms of security that we can offer. Of course, we have a central audit trail, so any changes, like I mentioned earlier, who logs in, who logs out, which node did someone log in, which node, which operator made the change to set point, all that is logged in our historian. So you can always pull that information out if you're, for audit purposes or for troubleshooting purposes. It's easy to back up and restore. So if you have a disaster recovery situation where, you need to back up your system, it's fairly intuitive and straightforward. Everything is backed up on a continuous basis, and you can restore immediately. And of course, we do work with different antivirus vendors. So any patch that is released, it goes through our software group and is vetted thoroughly before it's released to the users. The other thing that, when you are designing the architecture, you can have DMZs or demilitarized zones or various different network zones that you might not want them to interact with each other. Maybe you do want it to interact with each other. But again, based on the flexibility of the architecture that is in your fleet or in your plant, we can mold the S Plus operations to meet that. I guess that was it from a very high level in terms of what S Plus operations can provide. As we mentioned earlier, this is to give an introduction on what S Plus operations is, and we can delve in deeper into different topics as needed.
Yeah, we have a poll question here. We'd just like to know what things you would like to see in future webinars here. If you could just let us know if these are some of the things that you'd like to see.
Yeah, and when we're delving deeper, we'll have actual demos of the system. So we'll have our natural system and not more PowerPoint presentations, and show you how it works. And each of these topics will be in-depth technology review.
And also, too, if you have any questions, please use the Q&A panel and send us those questions. So I see here it looks like we've got a number here for HMI upgrades. Looks like that's like got the most votes so far.
Well, while everybody's filling in, I did have a question typing a question. You were talking about architectures earlier. You, I think, touched on virtualization. Can you go a little deeper, explain, can I use virtualization to set up my S Plus operation networks?
Yes, so S Plus operations supports virtualization. We have many users where we're using either rack servers or even blade servers for virtualization. So, most of the time we use Dell, but we've used HP and other vendors. Of course, we have to work with the IT group of the user, and we work with the IT group of ABB and come up with the best architecture. The beauty of having a system virtualized, of course, your footprint is reduced. You have lesser hardware that you need to maintain about, and you disconnect the main, the layer of a network that's the operating system, and it's disconnected from S Plus operations.
Okay, we have a question from the audience as well, Renel. Is there a high-performance graphics library, or is that something extra?
So with the product itself, you do not get the high-performance graphics library. So that is something that you have to work with your account manager. to see what the relevant offering would be for your system.
I mean, we have a library of standards that we use, but it's a process of going through with sitting down with the customer, with their operators, see what they're trying to achieve, what the operator's looking for. Grayscale doesn't always mean gray. I think you mentioned that earlier. We can use colors if there are certain color standards that the customer uses already, they want to keep. So there is a bit of a process there, and then we can either use from our standard library or build for any other specifics that are desired by the customer.
Yeah, because from the standard library, we have some users, as Mark mentioned, who would want to have colors as the high performance, philosophy at the site, whereas some other users might say, you know what, for us, high performance is different shades of gray. So the library that we have allows for flexibility. We use universal logical colors, so we can go in and change the database to say, you know what, my gray across the entire plant should be a little darker, a little lighter, or change the gray to be red or yellow from the logical color database. So, you know, we do have a starting point, but we tailor it based on what is relevant to the site.
Okay. Why don't we move on? Did you want to reply to this or the survey? Okay. All right. Let's move on.
Okay. The next topic that I want to hit on is S+ engineering. I do see, you know, for essence of time, I will be going through this a little quicker. Please stop me anytime through the chat. So we spoke about focusing on the operator. We need to ensure that we focus on the engineer as well, because through S+ engineering workbench platform, what we're trying to do is we provide a platform where you can engineer, configure, administrate, secure, and also commission, and then after commissioning, maintain your Symphony Plus system. So we want to be there throughout the entire life cycle and provide one platform to do that. And S+ engineering is the workbench is the solution for it. We have an intuitive interface. We have system topology that's inbuilt into S+ engineering. If you have worked with S+ engineering, we have bulk engineering tool, which is more Excel based. So now, you know, you can, if you're doing bulk engineering or tag changes to the entire system, you can do it in Excel and import it into S+ engineering. Maintenance is role-based again, and you know, I will hit on it on another slide which is coming up. Interface to third-party tools. So if you are interfacing or bringing in various protocols to electrical integration, or again 104 or Modbus, can all be brought into S+ engineering in the same workbench. Now, when we started this presentation, we mentioned about the earlier generation, right? We have many of you who are on MFCs, MFPs, BRC 100, or you're already on the S+, where you have BRC 400s and the 410s, or maybe you even have our DIN stuff, which is the SPC 700 or the HPC 800. Now, all these can be configured in S+ engineering. So if you have, and we have done this with many of our users, where they have the legacy EWS or Composer, we can take the EBP file, which is the project file, come into S+ engineering and upgrade the database so that it's compatible with S+ engineering. So now what happens with that is you do not lose your intellectual property. You do not lose your tuning parameters. All that is upgraded to your S+ engineering workbench, and then of course all the additional features and functionality with the S+ engineering can be seen here. With S+ engineering, we offer multi-user and remote engineering. So think of this as a library. So if you have multiple people working on a project, you can check out a particular CLD, which is a logic sheet, or you can check out an entire project. This is useful when you're trying to reduce your installation time, or during commissioning. If you have various people with the right access, of course, it's always the right access, can log in and can work on the same project and make changes. So you're crashing the project schedule and making sure you can get through the engineering much quicker. 2 or 3 main highlights I wanted to hit in terms of S+ engineering, which I thought were relevant here. One is project administration. So here is where you can go in and upgrade your earlier Composer projects. But in addition, I can add information here. I can put in names of, you see, I have 2 ABB logos here, but these are logos of whoever the person should contact for that particular project. I can have the engineering firm's name, contact, the email address, cell phone number, and the logo of the company. Same with maybe you have an ABB account manager information or the resident engineer information you want to put in here. So you can put in the name, contact details, and the company logo. So this is helpful because if something happens and you want to make change and the right person is not there, they can look up the project header and know exactly who to contact and which company they need to reach out to. The other is user management. So now this is, like I said, role-based access control. So if you have, powerhouse project and you have balance of plant project, you have two different projects and you have, say, two different engineers. If engineer one logs in, you want the engineer one login to only see your powerhouse project and only make changes to that. So you can configure in such a way that now my engineer one doesn't even see the balance of plant projects. So now you're completely disconnecting the two projects, though they're in the same place. Now you have engineer 2 logging in, and he or she can only see the balance of plant and cannot see the powerhouse project. So you can, again, it's role-based access control. Based on who gets to see what is decided by the users when we design the system. We also have system topology. So instead of creating your network drawings on your Adobe or Visio or any other different softwares, you can link that directly in S+ Engineering. So I can go into S+ Engineering and create the network architecture. I can put my control, my I/O, my servers, my S+ Engineering, S+ Operation, clients, printers, all of that in my system topology. So again, now we have a central, within S+ Engineering workbench, you have a central location to maintain your network architecture. The last one I put here is automation architect. The main reason I put that there is to show that familiarity, right? So if you're used to our Composer world, you know function codes, you know how it works. So the core of designing is still in Composer world. So if you have, we have many users who are veteran engineers. You don't lose that. The same knowledge is applied here, but we're adding in more features and functionality to make it more secure, use more data, and make it more effective for the users. I mentioned about effective change management. This is our central audit trail. So any change made anywhere on the network is logged. So it's easy for troubleshooting. And with the right access, you can see what changes are made where. Couple of last topics I want to hit on S+ Engineering. One is the configurable function code. So what this is taking various function codes and putting it into one. You see on the right here, I have 4 function codes here. I can consolidate it and put it into one, calling it my CFC. For now, I'm just calling it my CFC or my configured function code. And what this does is I can only show what is input and what's the output, but what's inside my box is not visible unless, of course, you go into it deeper. The advantage of this, if you have 20 or you say you have hundreds of pumps, right? So instead of dropping this 4 function codes hundreds of times, now I have a custom function code that's created, and then I just drop this 100 times. The other thing that we have designed with the CFC is white box and black box capability. So you can lock it if you want to, put a password. Nobody knows what is the logic that's running inside of the CFC. Or you can keep it white box where you can just double click and see the logic that's running behind it. Two other topics to hit on. One is device management. So if you see here, it's just showing performance reporting. I'm showing a hierarchical tree structure where I can dive in deeper to see what's happening with my smart devices. So here, if it's red, of course, there's an issue. I can delve deeper to see what's happening. So these are all in line with the codes that you see, or the coloring scheme and the shapes are in line with the NE 107 category. So this is the standard accepted or the standard that is accepted globally. So if you see, if it's a green tick, it's normal. The inverted triangle with the exclamation, there's a functional check. Failures are red with an X, and out of spec is a triangle with a question mark. So you can see what's happening on the Harmony network in terms of your smart devices.
That's taking all the data from the digital device itself.
Yes. So that was a hierarchical structure, but of course there's a dashboard. In this day and age, everything can be consolidated and showed up at a higher level. So here I'm showing 4 different reports. One is status dashboard. So here I can categorize my devices. I can say, for my temperature devices, show me what's happening. For my pressure devices, show me what's the status. Or you can have device status detail. So each device you can have detail to show me what's happening. You can have a report which is event list, which shows me over my entire platform, what are my events that have happened with my digital devices. And of course, a device scan history to see what are the changes that were made across the smart devices. So we can integrate these devices within S Plus engineering as well. S Plus operations is at a higher level where you're looking at only from a scalar standpoint, but if you want to do operations, if you want to control or bring those data for control, we have various tools and softwares available. One is the CI850. So many of our users are now going into 61850 integration, electrical integration, and bringing it back into the DCS. So we do that with a lot of our users, and we have a card which is called the CI850 to bring it into S Plus engineering. We can do DNP 3.0, IEC 104, of course, Modbus, TCP/IP, and various other protocols can be brought in to S Plus engineering from a control standpoint. I did want to end with the S Plus engineering part with what's coming up next. This is the S Plus engineering 2.1. And the biggest change that we did here is the backend database engine. So like I mentioned, there's a lot of new features and functionality. There's a lot of big data that's coming in. So we need to ensure that the backend database can handle that. So in S Plus engineering, if some of you are familiar with it, in the Composer world, it was the MS Access database technology. So we are moving that over to a PostgreSQL database. So this is going to be more powerful and be able to handle the large amount of data that is now available for S Plus engineering and for our users to make bigger decisions. It will also provide centralized operations. So what do I mean by that is now instead of exporting from Composer and importing into S Plus operations, you'll have it, you can push it directly from S Plus engineering to S Plus operations, and it's the same database which is remaining in sync with the entire network.
Yeah, so we have another poll question here. When it comes to S Plus engineering specifically, are any of the following things that you'd like to see in a future webcast? Just go ahead and cast a vote and let us know. And of course, as well, if you have any questions, go ahead and put them in the Q&A panel. And we do have another question here about Composer.
Is Composer operations working now in S Plus engineering 2.1? Yes, in S Plus engineering 2.1, the methodology that we'll be using is a Composer operations, and it is working and functional. Just to give you one example, we have one of our users with a 70,000 tag database been operating for the past 9 or 10 months without having any issues.
And they've been working as with data and as part of our pilot team. 2.1 is to be released here in the coming months. So it's not available yet for general use, but should be targeted for release here at the end of the quarter, early third quarter.
Yeah, so as you guys are doing the poll, I did want to talk about what are the current versions that we have. Again, just to get familiar with what is out there right now and what's coming soon. What is out there right now is S Plus Operations 2.1, which is supporting Windows 10 LTSB 2015. LTSB is long-term service branch. So this is where Microsoft realized that you cannot have the same operating system for your regular use and the same thing for industrial control systems. So now they've separated it, and LTSB is more for industrial control systems. So S Plus Operations 2.1 is supported on LTSB 2015 and of course Server 2016. We have virtualization, as I mentioned earlier. In S Plus Operations 3.1, which is coming, which is going to be released next, is going to be based on LTSB 2016. It's going to have more focus on operator effectiveness, going to have the Pocket portal I mentioned earlier, and the S Plus Engineering 2.1, the biggest change is the database engine change. And of course, we'll support the same version in terms of Windows Server and the operating system. So that was from an S Plus engineering standpoint. I did want to touch on a couple of new, the upcoming webinars that we have. The one that we're scheduled for next is focusing more on control and I/O. So this will hit on the Symphony Plus portfolio for control and I/O, so it's your Harmony rack, where you talk about the BRC410 and the other modules and the rack. And from a Symphony DIN standpoint, the HPC 800, the SPC how do we use it for auxiliary systems, PLC replacements that we have done in the field. And there's also power supplies that we have. We have the new MPS-3 and the new MPS-4 power supplies. So we'll, based on the feedback that we get from you, we might have webinars on that as well. The third one I wanted to hit on is upgrading control network. So we have two different modules. One is the IEB, which is the Infinite to Ethernet bridge, which will be discussed at the Control and I/O, but it's another webinar that we want to have. And the last one is the Ethernet NIS, where the NIS NPM can be replaced by the Ethernet enabled NIS module. So these are just, again, giving you a very high-level overview on what's coming up in the future webinars. Only the next one has been scheduled for May 22nd. Based on the feedback we get from you and what's of interest to you, we'll modify the arrangement.
And this webinar has been recorded, and we'll send you a link to that recording, as well as a link to this PowerPoint here in a follow-up email. And if you have any questions, go ahead and submit them through the Q&A panel.
While you're waiting on a question, I mean, you teased it, Ronald. Maybe we need just a little more explanation. The Ethernet NIS and the Ethernet Infinite to Ethernet bridge. Just to clarify, for those who may not be familiar, we have your traditional rack systems have Infinet as its communication network, and then for SD series we have a Ethernet network, PN800, which is actually Infinet layered on top of Ethernet. So what these two modules provide is a way to move your traditional Infinet over to an Ethernet communication backbone. Still accepts reporting, but on Ethernet. So these modules both help you seamlessly or incrementally upgrade your architecture to Ethernet. And we'll get into more of that, I think, in the May 22nd webinar, and then with follow-up details of specific use cases and other discussions, possibly in other webinar installments going forward towards the end of the year.
Yeah, well, I don't see any more questions. I think that wraps it up. Hey, we appreciate your time. If you found this of value, please share it with your colleagues. Let them know, invite them into a conference room or something. We would really appreciate that. And at the end of this webcast, you'll see here in just a second, there is a brief survey. You'll have a chance to let us know if there's other things, maybe things that we didn't think of that you'd like to see in a future webcast. Please submit that survey and let us know. We would really appreciate it. On behalf of everyone here at ABB, thanks for watching.